Uh, With the number of officials on the decline in the state of Illinois, you as younger officials, and I think Clarence is the age group here 1 to 5 years of experience? Is that what we're looking at tonight here?
Yes, sir.
Th- For all of you, one to 5 years of experience, number one, you do not have any bad habits to break yet because you haven't been around long enough to have the bad habits. But if you come across some bad habits, I've put together a committee, a crew, a board, whatever you'd like to call it, of officials, very experienced officials that have been places that you have not been yet. They have accomplished things that you have not accomplished yet. But with all of us together, we're going to make opportunities for a lot of you. And the most important thing is you're going to be doing it the correct way. And we're getting ready to bring on IAABO with us, and they're going to be a big help with us as far as being consistent, doing things the correct way. A lot of material. We'll get into that a little bit later on with Donnie, maybe. But right now, again, I want to welcome all of you, and hopefully, good things are going to happen for you, and you're going to be able to learn an awful lot. So.
Well, thank you very much, Gary, for those great words of encouragement as well as information. As Gary mentioned, our goal is to help fulfill his vision, and that is to make sure that everybody's doing the same thing as far as officiating basketball wise throughout the state of Illinois. So up next, we have a guest speaker, Donnie Eppley, who's the executive director of IAABO. And he's going to talk about IAABO program that we are going to be adopting here in the state of Illinois. Donnie, take it away.
Donnie, is Donnie muted?
Well, we good?
We are now, yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. Yeah, I want to thank everybody, Gary, Jeff, Clarence, and other clinicians that are on the call for the opportunity to speak about IAABO and a little bit about where we've been and what we do as an organization. Clarence, am I able to share my screen?
Yes, I made you a co-host, so you should be
okay. Got it. Okay, just give me 1 second here, and I will share my screen. Got a short presentation. I've actually pared this down, but I think it's important for everybody to see. IAABO is the International Association of Approved Basketball Officials, and the organization has been around for over 100 years. And we've got what's our why? The purpose of IAABO and what we espouse to is to educate, train, develop, and provide continuous instruction for basketball officials. So it's just not onboarding basketball officials, but it's the continuous instruction for basketball officials. I was at a meeting over the weekend, and there was an individual stood up, and they said that they had sold they had trained 21,000 officials, but they had no idea where those individuals were in their officiating, avocation right now. So the good thing about what we do is we're able to track people from a junior level under the age of 18 all the way through if they're get into the NBA. So we're able to track those individuals and, promote the welfare of the game of basketball as players and officials, maintain the highest standards. We've got a code of conduct that we've just developed a lesson 0 for our IAABO University on what it means to be a basketball official. Encourage the spirit of fair play and sportsmanship. Have available at all times an adequate number of thoroughly trained and capable officials, and cooperate with all organizations officially connected with the game of basketball. So it's not just IAABO. We don't write the rules. We train and educate on the National Federation rules, but we're connected with the NBA, FIBA, which is the international game. We're working on a program with Canada Basketball right now to train their basketball officials. So I think we have some of the best training materials in the world. So this next slide I think is really impressive. These are currently individuals who started in IBO and are in the NBA. Matt Boland, Tony Brothers, Sean Corbett, Scott Foster, Ashley Moyer-Glee. She actually started in our high school group, and she was the fourth female to be taken into the NBA. Worked a playoff game a couple years ago. Josh Tiven, Zach Zarba from Brooklyn, New York. Susha Mehta, he's from the District of Columbia. Matt Myers is also from DC. G, his name is sort of tough to pronounce, but he's also from DC. Then JD's from Maryland, and Natalie Santiago. We also have a couple of non-staff officials that are IBO members. And then you can see some of the names that you might recognize down at the bottom. Dick Bavetta, the Ironman of officiating. He officiated I don't know how many games in a row for the longest time. Joey Crawford, Bob Delaney, Joe Forte, some of the names, and I could go on. And then some of the, the godfathers of basketball, John Nakatola. He was the first NBA supervisor, Dr. Phil Fox, and Jay Dallas Shirley. So we have a long and storied history with the NBA. So our officials have the opportunity to start at the, at the lowest level and go all the way to the top. So the next individual here, John Nakatola, who started with IBO, he was one of the original officials in the NBA, and he served as the NBA supervisor from 1970 to 77. In the National Basketball Hall of Fame, you can see the names here. There's 18. 12 of those are IBO. 12 of those are IBO officials. From Hank Nichols, Nakatola, Jay Dallas Shirley, Earl Strom, Bavetta, all those individuals were IBO officials. So pretty much 2/3 of the basketball officials that are in the Hall of Fame are IBO officials. What is our structure? We're a nonprofit 501c6, and we have a board of trustees. Currently, I'm the executive director, and we've got Felix Adio. He and I just switched positions here on July 1st. He's an associate director. He stayed on with us. And then we've got TJ Halliday. He's our director of learning and development. And I'll flip up a picture here of TJ in a few minutes, but he's the brainchild behind the materials that we produce. And we're only as good as our membership, because I think our membership is what pushes us to get better. Last year in California, when we expanded into California, they wanted us to do more and provide tracking. So we now have micro courses in addition to some other of the courses that we actually have to offer. Membership benefits for IBO. Dedicated office staff. You can call 24/7, 365, and you'll get somebody to answer a phone. I think Clarence and Jeff can attest to that. We've got a members only area on our website, and we have a mobile app. We have liability insurance, which is included with your membership. And I never think that you can have too much insurance. So you may get insurance from your state association. We're going to stack that with what we have on the IBO liability policy. So we don't allow people to opt out for a reduced fee. So our fee is our fee. The liability insurance is included with that. The IBO handbook, which includes a rules guide. And I'll show you a couple pictures of this in a minute, but I just got one. I just got a preliminary shipment when I was in Montgomery, and it is phenomenal. This year we went full color with the book. And I sent a copy to Gary the other day. We're excited because in about 2 weeks, we'll start shipping to everybody, and then everybody will have pretty much the basketball Bible in their hand. Periodicals and publications. We have Inside the Lines and Sportorial. So every 15 days, you get something delivered to your inbox. We've got pregame aids, ongoing education, RefQuest Plus, which I'll show you. We've got a video playbook, IBO Academy, the fall seminar, which is coming up in Colorado Springs, and then our officiating schools. Our dedicated office staff, as I previously mentioned, myself, Felix, both of us are full-time employees, and TJ is a part-time employee, and we just brought on Julie Goupel, who was our special projects coordinator. We just brought her on as a full-time employee. So now we can direct her activities as an employee. As I mentioned earlier, the website and the app. Our website, if you go to IAABO.org, and if you can't remember International Association Approved Basketball Officials, just always think IAABO.org, and you can get into the site. So we've got a members area, like I mentioned in there. It's got a myriad of products for you that will make you a better basketball official if you'll spend the time. The insurance that I talked about right now is currently $2 million worth of coverage, and it covers you for any game, any assigner, anywhere. So once you become a member of IAABO, and you, let's say, for example, you're a snowbird and you went to Florida for the winter, you would be covered for any game that you officiate. Liability insurance is so important right now because of the state of our nation and such a litigious society. Everybody wants to sue everybody for anything. And we had a situation 2 years ago in New York City where it was the middle of winter and somebody tracked some snow, which became water, onto the court, and a player slipped and broke his arm. And what they did was they not only sued the school district and the entire school district, the school, they also sued the officials. So they were covered with our liability insurance policy, which was good for them, and they didn't have any issues. As I mentioned earlier, the IAABO handbook, it contains the rules guide, and the crew of 2 and crew of 3 mechanics. It includes crew of 2 tableside and opposite. So there's places in the United States where, and that might not mean much to anybody right now as a young official, but if you move around, different areas use different switches on fouls. So I think that's important to know. So the actual the rules guide down here, you can see it's in color. So it's just a document that's worth its weight in gold. The periodicals, we talked about sportorials. If you go on the IAABO website to IAABO.org and you click on the bottom of the screen, if you go find your way to the bottom of the screen and you click on sportorials, you'll see the latest edition of sportorials. Our periodical is we highlight our members, but we also, it's strictly basketball. So we don't have other sports in here. The Inside the Lines, which you also get delivered directly to your inbox, always has a mechanic that is highlighted in there. So I think that's very important. As you get that, you can review it. As part of your membership, you get a pregame card. This is something that's laminated. You can stick it in your bag. When you get to the game site, you can have a quick down and dirty pregame with your partner. If you're short on time, you can go to the bottom where it says rules review, and you can pick out a couple subjects and talk about that. If you've got plenty of time, there's enough information on here to talk for 2 or 3 hours. Just giving you some guidelines. This next document, the pregame aid and apparel document, this is something that last year we had on our website. This year you'll find it in the back of the rules guide. We thought it was really important for everybody to have that versus having to go look for it on the website. Now you have it at your disposal. So if you're carrying your rule book to your games, you'll have this document available to you. We've also got pregame aid, scores, and timers cards that we provide to associations that they can give to the local schools. This is also good for you to review. And it's nice when you go over, if you're the referee and you need to discuss something with the table personnel. It's a great guide. Depending on the level of the game, I know a lot of times at the junior high level, it's hard to find individuals that can keep the score or keep the time. This is a great refresher for those individuals. We've also got positioning checklists. One of the big benefits that we have with IAABO is a program called RefQuest. So during the course of the season, 3 times a week, you're going to get a video play that's going to be delivered to your inbox. And then 72 hours later, there's going to be a play summary. And it's really, if you're talking about it's a block charge, it just doesn't say that was a block or that was a charge. It gives you a detailed analysis of that entire play. So This is something that it's exclusive for IBO through RefQuest. RefQuest is normally a collegiate program, but we have access to it for the ability to provide video plays to our members. We've also got a video playbook online in our members area. This is being completely updated. There are plays out there that when we started to switch over, we had 200 plays from the rule book detailing play situations. So we're now in the process of changing all those plays over where they'll all have voiceovers. So before you had to read the video, now it'll have a voiceover and you can follow along. So that's something that is a really neat feature that we offer. IBO Academy, for those individuals that have been officiating for a while, this is the continuing education piece. Starting in September, after we have our fall seminar, we'll have 18 to 20 sessions that are, traveling, advanced traveling, block charge, basket interference, communication, signals. There's just a myriad of different types of presentations that are made available. And if you're a multi-sport official, let's say for example, you do football or you do soccer in the fall and you miss the presentation, these are professionally edited and put online in our members area. So these are really good. And we also, beginning this year, we're going to track the training. So if you go through the training, at the end, you'll be able to get a certificate and turn it into your board if they so require. This is actually one of the presentations. I'll just.
We're not hearing sound, Donnie.
You're not here. You're not hearing any sound?
Nope.
No.
Okay, I'll just skip that then. I should have turned on the sound before I left. So, on the fall seminar that's coming up in October, or excuse me, September. The seminar is free of charge to everybody. The only thing that we require is that you pay for your own travel. So, unlike some seminars where it's $400 or $500, ours is free. All you have to do is get there. We actually this year we contracted for 300 rooms. We're already at 480. We're able to get 10 additional rooms today, which is this will be our largest meeting to date as our organization is really growing. Some of the intangibles that we talk about at the fall seminar and during the IBO Academy, physical skills, which is also a monthly feature in our sportorials, talk about mental skills, communication, leadership, decision-making, and it just goes on and on all the way down to the integrity. We also have a bunch of exams. We have a refresher exam that is a 75-question exam that everybody gets with their membership. Then we've got an IBO Academy exam. That one's 60 questions. And then we also have a game simulator. And if you're on this call tonight, I would encourage you to go to a website called trainyourofficials.com and try the game simulator. So it's about 45 minutes. Would take you to go through it, 45 minutes to an hour. But it actually takes you from the start of the game and all the way to the end. It's going to give you play situations during a pregame. I know the one last year had a player wearing a hearing aid or a cochlear device, and it talks about how you handle that situation. And then there was a pregame dunk. How would you handle that? So there's a lot. There's about 42 different situations in this game simulator. So it's a neat way of learning, and I think it's one of the top exam choices that we offer. We've also got floor training observer forms. You can see there if they were going to give an observation. And lastly, I would tell you that Normally, as individuals, we charge $40 per person because we have to mail the books directly from our office. But we're currently for $35. You get all the information that I just went, and that's not $35 a month. That's $35 a year, which is less than 10 cents a day, which I think is our dues haven't changed since 2001. So does anybody have any questions?
I think that's a great information, Donnie. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So Gary, do you want to kind of just touch on IAABO and your vision, how we can use IAABO to help our basketball officials become better officials?
Well, I think, it's going to benefit all of us no matter what kind of experience level that we're talking about. And it's going to help if you look at everybody on the same level, it's going to help as the officials rise up in their officiating careers. It's going to help everyone be on the same page, the same level, if you will. Again, I go back to try to get some consistency across the statewide. The Chicagoland area, it all starts right there. It starts with you guys in the Chicagoland area. And again, I mentioned earlier, you have done a very, very good job, and you're off to a good start on doing what we're asking you to do, especially at the state tournament level. We've seen it really show at the state tournament games and so forth. So, but again, I can't stress enough. It puts everybody on the same thought process, doing the same things the same way in all areas of the entire state of Illinois.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I can attest myself. I was one of probably the first. I won't say the only, but probably one of the first officials to take advantage of IAABO during the pandemic. And like I mentioned earlier, being a signer for Chicago Public Schools, I'm responsible for training over 250 officials every single year throughout the year. And as you can imagine, that's a lot of people. But the thing of it was, which brought the whole vision of IAABO made more sense to me, was the fact that, and this is something I want you all, everybody that's on this call, to consider and consider very strongly, is after these training sessions are over, we all go to training meetings and different things like that. And we get all excited, we get all the information, and we're gung-ho. But what do you do when the meeting is over? What resources do you have access to when the meeting is over? So that's the most important part, because one thing about officiating, Donnie can attest to this, Gary, myself, all of the veteran officials that have been around for a while, it's great when we're in a meeting, but when that meeting is over, if you're not putting time in, if you're not investing in yourself, if you're not studying the rules, if you're not watching videos, if you're not doing all of those various things that to help you become successful, then that's going to be a bit of a challenge for you. But this is a great opportunity. IAABO is a great opportunity. We'll keep you engaged. It'll keep you learning about the rules. You have access to all of the various resources that Donnie showed, from videos to the rule book to the video gallery. So it's just a wide range of resources that we highly, highly, highly recommend that officials become a part of IAABO as a member, so that you can benefit from those same resources. Any questions from anybody before we get started with that about IAABO? Okay, somebody has a question. When registering for IAABO, it is asking for a board number. Where will we find that information? So we started a chapter here in Chicago. For right now, I can share the link for those that want to register. And Gary, just to FYI, Donnie and I talked. What we can do is, for those that's interested in registering now, we can give them the link, and then in the database, we can move them over to the new system once we get everything updated, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, great.
And it's board 267.
Yeah, I'm about to pull up the link now and put it in the chat. All you do is just fill out the link, fill out the information. You can pay with your debit card online. Don't worry about where it says Chicago area. That's just the name that we came up with, but the link is in the chat for those that want to register. Again, it's $35 annually. Donnie, can you, for those that do register right away, or register in, maybe in the next couple of weeks or what have you, Can you let them know approximately how soon they can expect their materials in the mail and access to their account?
Yeah, I mean, they'll get immediate access to like the IAABO members area and the videos, because what happens is as people come through, you'll get a welcome email from IAABO. I think I sent one to Gary, so that would
Yes.
be what they get, explaining them how to get into the members area, and then we automatically, for all the new people, we register them for RefQuest. So rather than normally like for veteran officials, we make them go to the IAABO website in the members area and sign up. But for new officials, we sign them up individually and automatically as they come on. So, and then if there's any issues, I would say probably by the end of the month, the handbooks will all be shipped out. I'm going to get a shipment for like the actual shipments for the boards will go out from Maine, but then for everybody that's individual that I've got to ship out from here, then we'll get that information and send it out. But I would say no later than the end of the month, everybody should have their handbooks.
Awesome, awesome. And just real quick, I'll just share my screen. So once you log in, oh, I'm sorry, that's not the right one. Once you log into RefQuest, this is what it will look like. And you have access to a video library. I'm not sure if you guys can see the full screen or not, but
We can see it.
this is the video library that now all of these videos are videos since I've been a member, since what, about 5 years ago. And I'm up to approximately 30, 40 pages of videos. So on an average of receiving 2 to 3 videos per week. So for example, I'll just pull this up just for show. This question is a goaltending, basket interference, or legal play. TJ Holiday again, who does a great job of sharing the videos and information along with Donnie and the rest of the team. This is just a description down here. You can watch the video here. You can see what the play looks like. You can make your judgment. Was it basket interference? Was it goaltending? Again, you want to base all your responses on what the rule is. Obviously, you got to know the rule in order to apply the rule. But this is what challenges your thinking. So it challenges your rule knowledge. It also challenges you to understand if you were the official on the court, what would you have on this particular play? You can slow the play down. You can speed it up. And once you get here, you click next to it, says make the call. Let's just say I said basket interference. Okay, you can give a description or whatever your description may be. I'll just put basket interference. But you want to give whatever information you can. Submit your answer. Once you submit your answer, now you can go look, and you won't see this right away, but usually a couple of days later, you'll see the play summary. Now you can see what everybody, all IAABO officials that did comment on this particular play, you can see what the average was, who picked which answer. Okay, so red is saying basket interference. The correct answer is goaltending, which is in green. Then you can look at the comments of everybody that made comments in regards to the play to see what their responses are. So not only are you challenging your own thinking, you're also seeing what other officials are thinking based on what their perception was of that particular play. Okay, but again, this is just to help enforce your educational process of learning the officiating side of what we do. So again, this is just a great tool. I highly, again, will encourage you guys to take advantage of this. And again, you can filter by different categories: block charge, hand checking, you name it, bench decorum, so forth and so on. You can filter by those various categories to study specific types of plays. Anything else, Donnie, that I may be forgetting?
Clarence, the only thing I would mention there is that, don't be afraid to participate. Because we're not checking answers. We just want you to participate, use your judgment, use your rules knowledge, and then you can go out there and you can look to see what the answers are. But the key is when you get that play summary, that's where the learning comes into play. You know what I mean? So we want you to participate. Don't be afraid to put your answer out there. We don't always get them right. So that, I think that's the key.
Donnie, was there an audio tab on that? You make the call there. I couldn't find an audio
There is no
icon.
audio.
Oh, okay, Then I wasn't missing anything.
Yeah,
Donnie,
some
Yeah,
videos have audio,
some of the
some
videos, a lot of the videos do not have audio, but guys, I will say this, that's probably one of the best additions to being an IBO member. You literally, and then matter of fact, that particular video that he showed was a new rule application, and
Correct.
so we may not even have the rule book per se to know what the rule is, but the whole point is to get you thinking about it. And TJ is also on the National Federation Committee, so he already kind of knows what they've discussed or knowing what they're continuing to discuss about certain rules. So they will even put out stuff that has to do with the new rule that we don't even have all the information about, and just to get you to think about what the rules were, because the rules were announced in May. So that's one of the best parts actually of IBO, in my opinion. I almost can't get to everything else. I can only get sometimes to the video portion of it, and that to me is just a valuable part of that. So
yeah. So again, I'll check the chat, and those that want to register, again, I'll put the link in the chat. Feel free to take advantage of it and sign up. And so without further ado, I'll pass it over to Jeff Rutledge, who will be our guest speaker this evening, who is a 3-time state final official as well as NCAA men's basketball official. Jeff, it's all yours.
okay. Well, thank you, everybody. First of all, thank you for coming on a Monday in August, probably about 3 months or so before our season actually starts. We want to do this to help get you start thinking about stuff in the season. We really, part of our work with IBO too is we would like this to be a 12-month out the year situation. I know that there are many of you might do other sports and might have some other things that you are involved in. That's absolutely fine. But one of the ways to get better as an official is to be constantly processing your mind about rules, mechanics, procedures, all those type of things. I'm going to cover pretty much a short topic for the most part. Again, my goal is to get everybody out of here about 8:15 probably, if there are not a lot of questions. If you do have any questions, please ask them in the chat, and I will we'll get to them. If we have any further questions, especially stuff that you think that maybe you don't want to ask the entire group, we will stay around for a little bit afterwards to see it. So Clarence, take care of the chat to make sure that everybody the questions are answered. And guys, the only question that's a dumb one is the one you don't ask, because I understand that there's people on here that have probably never officiated a game in their life or a basketball game. So there are things that you don't know. And I'm going to cover a pretty basic topic that's kind of not specific to a rule in the book. If for those who know, there's 10 rules in our rule book, and there are some things that are kind of tracked between different rules. This is kind of what we're talking about. So I'm going to talk about status, and really what the heck does that even mean? Because I think that, this is a concept that I learned from actually somebody else. One thing you'll learn is if you're a good official, well, first off, can everybody see my screen? They can see your screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so the one thing about it is that be the biggest thief that you can be. All this stuff that I'm going to talk about, I've literally kind of stolen from other people or have heard from other people and used it for myself for presentations to help you guys get better. So this is an aspect of that. So what does status mean? What am I talking about? So basically, I will read this. I'm not going to read a lot of these, but status can be based on location of the ball or location of the last player to touch the ball. Your status remains until the new action forces it to change. Okay. So status can be when the ball's in contact with a new object, or when the player who has the ball moves to a new location, or when an action causes it to end. So that's kind of what this is. But still, Jeff, what does that really truly mean? So we're going to cover some areas where we talk about what status is. Okay. So first of all, let's talk about inbound, out of bounds status, because this is the thing that probably confuses a lot of people. So what does this really mean? I mean, it's really basic. Now, we may think that, oh yeah, we just steps on the line. It's simply that. Well, the status of location is where you are located when you're touching either the inbounds or the out of bounds. And anytime you're touching the out of bounds at the same time with the ball, you're considered out of bounds. Even if you're in a dribble, you are considered to be in control of the ball, whether the ball is touching you or not, and you will have out of bounds status or inbound status. So that is kind of how that works to start off with. So here are some examples of what we're talking about when it comes to status. A lot of these do not have sound, so don't freak out. So I'm going to play this one. I don't believe this one has any sound to it. So what has happened here, there's an out-of-bound violation called on the player that's on the end line. And if you notice, and I'll just make this easy, he touches inbounds, he jumps, and then he touches inbounds before it appears he had touched the ball. But the official calls a violation for him being out of bounds. This would be incorrect. He has reached inbound status by just simply touching inbounds. If he had touched the ball while he was still in the air from out of bounds, then this would have been the proper violation. But this is a tough call. Out of bounds calls, I think, sometimes are the toughest calls to make, especially when it comes to bang bang stuff like this. But as we can see, and this is why RefQuest is so good, because that's where this video came from. So you can look at this a bunch of times. He appears, he steps in bounds and then touches the ball, but there's a violation. So that would be incorrect by rule, but again, probably not. Most people don't know this, especially people think we have to establish both feet in bounds to have inbound status. That is not true. All we have to do is be touching the floor with something other than something that is out of bounds, meaning the floor or a specific object that is out of bounds. Okay, here's an example of a newer rule in the last few years, but or the last couple years, where if you run out of bounds, you can't be the first to touch it. Now, the point of this video, and actually this is was stated, that this rule is not intended to be just if they barely touch it. The rule has to be they have to go out on their own volition, and if they come back in and are the first to touch the basketball, they would be considered violated. He accidentally or barely touches the line. So his status is still in bounds, but we have a new rule that we put in, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, where it states that if a player goes out of bounds on their own volition. Now, if he had went out of bounds, I would say with completely both feet, went around, then came back in, then we have a different status. But he's still not out of bounds by rule for touching the basketball purposes. It would only be a violation because we have a specific rule that covers that. Okay, so that's just kind of what we're talking about. And here's probably the play that confuses a lot of people about when can you establish to go back in bounds. So because of the new rule, or the rule that we had, I think, a year ago, it is okay, and it was okay anyway, but this clarified that if you go out because of your own momentum, or I mean, your momentum takes you out of bounds, you're making a play and you're trying to save the ball, and in the process, you just happen to go out of bounds. Even if you go out a little bit more than he did, you are still allowed to come back in and establish yourself and to get the ball. So he's not touching the ball at the time. He comes back in, establishes one, both feet, doesn't need two, but just one. And he is able to make a play on the ball and makes a basket. This is a legal play. Okay. And the difference would be is if he goes out to, let's say, avoid a player, or he purposely goes out to get an advantage to get to that ball, that would be a different situation. But that's not necessarily an out of bounds status. That's a violation of going out on your own volition. So, but again, the point of the matter is status related to your out of bounds status. Any questions real quick in the chat, Clarence?
You answered the question. Somebody asked, do you need both feet to be inbounds to establish inbound status? But you answered that question.
Yes, just need one, or even touching with a arm or hand. As long as you're not touching out of bounds, you can establish yourself on that way. Okay, status for front court and back court
Oh,
status.
I'm sorry. Somebody else just said, can you
Okay.
review the shooter out of bounds once more? Can you go back to that one, the shooter that ran out of bounds and then got the ball and shot the 3-point attempt? I think that was the previous video.
Previous slide to that one.
Yeah.
Oh, previous play.
Yeah, when the player ran out of bounds and
Okay.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah,
There you
this
go,
is
Jeff.
this is about a rule that we put in place, and this came from another level. But basically, you cannot go out of bounds on your own volition, meaning you can't purposely go out of bounds to get an advantage and then come back in. And only a violation if you are the first person to touch the ball or the ball's passed to you beyond. So if they had even, let's say he had even went, and I'll just say this is a throw-in, so this is a throw-in case. So even if he went all the way around here and came back in and he threw it to this player 54 first, then threw it to him, that is not considered a violation because you have to be the first to touch or play on the ball. So he wouldn't be the case. But his status is in bounds. It's just a different violation. Does that make sense?
Johnny, I know you asked the question. Okay, he said yes, that makes sense.
If it doesn't, just ask, because I just want to make sure I make it clear before we move on.
And let me say this too, while you mentioned that, Jeff, because we know that you all are newer officials, and some of this may somewhat make sense, and some of it may not. Please feel free to ask questions so that we can try to break it down so that you can get a better understanding of what the proper rule is, or the technique or the mechanic that we're supposed to be doing, so that you can learn how to do it the correct way. So someone asks, Toya says, so was that legal or not, that particular play?
That play where he goes out of bounds on the throw is a legal play. It was considered
Yes.
a legal play because he doesn't do it on purpose. He barely touches it. He's not trying to get an advantage. And again, this is where judgment comes into play. And these are things that you got to consider. So,
Yeah. So,
okay, let's just
okay.
quickly. Okay, go ahead.
Hold on. Someone, Bryce says, so if a player runs to avoid defense out of bounds, then is that a violation?
If they're the first to touch the ball, yes. If they're doing it on purpose, on volition means on purpose. You are under control when you're doing it. If your momentum takes you out of bounds, like you're saving the ball or you're trying to make a basket and you go out of bounds a little bit, as long as you come right back in, that's a legal play. And there's some nuance to that, but for status purposes, you can be established in bounds just by touching one foot. That was the point of it.
Yeah, great questions, everybody.
Yes, very good question. So let's move on to front court, back court status. Just so we know, you are wherever you last were, if you're airborne, and that includes out of bounds and inbounds, but it also applies to front court and back court. So you were in the back court until you establish yourself in the front court, which this player does. Okay, even he touched one foot, he jumps up in the air, he catches the ball, he has front court status. So part of the reason that this is important is because if he doesn't establish himself in the front court, this play would be a backcourt violation. But this is clearly a legal play. And this is showing that he's coming from the backcourt, and now he's touched in the front court. He touched with one foot. He's established himself in the front court. And you're like, why does that matter? Because this could be a difference between a violation and a legal play. To show something else. Now, this is a player who intercepted the ball in their backcourt, and they are dribbling. So in order especially for the new officials and some of the slightly veteran officials, in order to have from backcourt status to front court status on a dribble, you must have both feet and the ball dribbling in the front court in order to complete front court status. This actually was called a violation, but as you can see on the video, was incorrect because she never dribbled the ball completely in the front court. And just so you know, by rule, the division line is considered still in the back court. So if she dribbles this even on the line, she has not established herself yet in the front court by rule. And that has other implications. Obviously, backcourt violation is one where it could be considered. Also, 10-second count can be considered. Also, front court closely guarded count can be considered because if they're in the front court, we can start a closely guarded count. But in this case, she actually did a legal move, but the official probably maybe didn't see the whole thing. And we'll talk about those things as we go through these presentations, where she doesn't completely establish herself in the front court. And completely meaning she's dribbling both feet, what she has, but she never dribbles the ball completely in the front court. So by rule, she still has backcourt status. This should have been ruled a legal play. Okay, this has a little bit of sound, and the video will explain.
Is this a backcourt violation? Blue number 23 is dribbling the ball in his backcourt. He stops his dribble and passes the ball toward the division line. Blue number 1 jumps from his front court, catches the ball while in the air, and returns to the floor with one or both feet in his backcourt. The trail official is in good position and correctly rules a backcourt violation on this play.
Now, the reason this is important because if the ball is in as backcourt status and we have a player that's passing the ball to a player in the front court or near the front court, the player has to have established themselves in the backcourt when they catch it in order to and stay in the backcourt to not be considered a violation. So if they catch the ball and then they land in the front court, which they did, which we can show, they jump from the front court, they land in the back court. Because the team is in team control, this is considered a backcourt violation. This is one of those status things that you have to have. In order to not have a violation, you have to the ball has to completely get into the front court and not come back to the back court with the team in control without maybe a tap or something. And there's some nuance to that, but this is just to get you thinking about how the rule works. So status is very important in our rules. Any questions about that? Now, let me one more caveat to this, even though I didn't show a video of this. This does also applies different on a throw-in. A throw-in, you are allowed to jump from the front court to the back court because you haven't established control in one of the front court or the back court. That's a little caveat, but we can answer those questions later. So any other questions, Clarence?
Yes. Toya says, despite not having both feet in the ball in one of okay, she said, okay, that answers my question. Okay, so you answered her question.
Okay.
So you're good. So that's it.
And again, guys, these are I'm trying not to get into every little scenario because there's a bunch of scenarios, but these are just some basics so that you kind of start to grasp what this means. Now, this one is pretty self-explanatory. So status of a 2 or 3 point shot. It's simple. If you are behind the free throw of the 3 point line, when you jump or elite or shoot the ball, you are considered behind the line. And this is an extreme case. If you see this, please show me the video of this if you ever see this in the game. But by rule, this is a 3 point shot because his last place that he left the floor was behind the 3 point line. Now, if this ever happens in a game, I want to see this. But if he makes this basket, it's a 3 point basket. And that's kind of the gist of that. And we all see 3-point, we kind of know that, but we may think, well, wait a minute, what if he jumped so far forward? It doesn't matter. You're an airborne shooter from where you left. So if he's on the line, then this would be a 2-point shot. If he was inside the line, it would be a 2-point shot. But as long as he goes airborne behind the line, and if this goes in the basket, this is a 3-point basket. That's the basics of that rule. But again, I've never seen this, so I don't think we're going to see this. So there's a whole lot of other elements to this play that would take place. But sure, there aren't any questions about that, but there could be. But basically, the other part of this is that we didn't talk about. So what does this apply to an airborne player? So an airborne player is, where are you located? It's where you are currently touching, meaning the floor, not a person, the floor, or an object that would be out of bounds, or the last place that you left airborne. So if I'm jumping from the front court in the air and you're passing the ball to me and I catch the ball in the air, I'm considered in the front court. So where I land might be a violation, might be whatever. Same as if I was out of bounds and jumped in the air and you passed me the ball and I touched the ball in the air. If I touch the ball in the air and the last place I touched was the out of bounds location, then I'm considered out of bounds. So that's another element to this, which we kind of touched on. But basically, that's the basics of that. Any questions about that?
No questions. They got a few people in shock at the video that you showed, how he jumped from behind the 3-point line and it looked like it's unusual play, guys. I'll say this, it looks unusual, but here's the thing you got to remember. These players are doing a lot of tricky things nowadays, so you got to really know the rules and know how to apply them in various situations.
And there has been a couple plays where they've been similar. I think there was a play in the NBA where somebody jumped pretty far inside from the outside the 3-point line inside to make a basket, and there was a debate about this. I think it might have been Halliburton that did it, and he did it, I think, in the playoffs. So it can happen. It's just very rare, but I just want you to understand the principle of the rule. So here's another one. So what does status mean, or when does the status of a throw-in end? And you might say, well, why does that matter? Because a lot of things can happen during the throw-in. So first of all, let's talk about when it starts. So the ball's at the disposal of a thrower. The throw-in by rule starts. And actually it goes from a live ball to dead ball, but we'll get into that. And when the ball's at the disposal of the thrower, what can happen? So for foul purposes, until the throw-in ends, it is still considered that team in team control. And you might say, well, why does that matter? Because it has foul implications potentially. It does not have the same implications of a backcourt status or backcourt violation, but it can. So when the ball's at the store, when it's handed to the thrower, it also says free thrower because it applies to a free throw as well to some extent. When it's caught by the thrower after they're in bounds, okay, placed on the floor at the spot. There's some situations, I'm not going to get into details of that. And available after a goal and when the official counts. So when the ball goes through the hole, there's a live ball, dead ball period very quickly. But once the official starts their 5-second count, the ball's considered at disposal, but you got to give them a chance as an official to be at their disposal. They can't be 10 feet away from the ball and they can't get to it. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about once the ball's at their disposal and the official begins to count, that's when the throw-in by rule starts. And when the throw-in ends? When it's legally touched. It's just that simple. And it's not legally touched if there's a kickball or the very rare if the ball's hit with a fist. If you hit it with a fist like you're trying to punch the ball, that is considered a violation. Then those would not be times when the throw-in legally ends. So why does this matter? Because plays like this can happen. And I will make this clear what is taking place here. So we have a throw-in to start the second half. And we have a foul that takes place before the ball or before the throw-in ends. Now, you might say, well, that doesn't make much difference. It shouldn't matter that much. Well, what does that do with the arrow? Because during an alternating possession throw-in, if we have a foul or violation, the arrow can change based off of one of those things. Just so you know, it never changes or never supposed to change during a foul before the throwing ends. So if we have a foul that takes place before it ends, the arrow will not change. If it was legally touched first, then the throw-in would end and the arrow would change. Now, this doesn't happen very often, but I want to make this clear because this is kind of one of these things that is so rare that one of the other officials, and I'm the calling official, wanted to come over to make sure that we were going to get this right. So the arrow was pointed to the right, but because we have a foul, the arrow does not change, regardless of what happens on the next throw-in, because during the throw-in, we had a foul. The status of the throw-in did not change, so the status of the arrow cannot change as well. Does everybody kind of understand it? And that might be a little more complicated. And just to give a little shout out, the person that is giving me this information is Mark Sikorsky, who is one of our head clinicians or head rules interpreters at the state tournament. So he came to me and said, Jeff, isn't arrow not supposed to change? And I was already thinking it, but he's given me information. This is another thing that we need to know as a crew. We need to communicate this as a crew. Just because one official makes a call doesn't mean that we just all go to sleep and let us make a mistake. This would be a crew mistake if we made it, and he corrected it. Now, I'm going to give a little background just to this. This was a big consternation piece between two rivals. The team that did not get the arrow after the foul was really upset and thought we got this wrong. So this is why you got to know your rules, because when I got called about it, well, what happened? Well, this is the rule. And matter of fact, one of the people who called me was a former supervisor and didn't know the rule. So this is one of those rare situations. This has not happened to me in years, I don't think, where we had a foul during a throw-in before the ball was touched. He's holding his arm before the ball touches. We're already ruled a foul. Whether I blow the whistle immediately or not, but I'm blowing the whistle because I have a foul, the arrow will not change. And had to explain that to the table. Any questions about that real quick? But
Yes,
see,
someone has a question.
This is also why it matters, alternated possession, and also the clock starting. So the clock in that situation shouldn't have started either. But go on, Clarence.
So Jace has a question. He says, what if the foul sends the throw-in team to the foul line for a bonus? Does the arrow still stay?
Yes, it would. The arrow wouldn't change regardless. The one thing about our rules in a throw-in with an alternated possession throw-in, anytime there's a foul, the arrow never changes during that foul, as long as the throw-in had not ended. If he had got to the ball, then was fouled, different situation. The throw-in, the arrow changes because the throw-in ended first. So if there's a foul, and it's a foul by either team, by the way, it's not just the defensive team in this case or the non-throwing team. It applies to both teams. Violations are the only thing that can change the arrow without the throw-in ending. But by rule, it ends because of the violation. Does that make sense? And if it doesn't make sense, guys, ask. This is why we're doing it. Okay. And just to kind of move on, and the last little part of this is, when does the status of the ball change from alive to dead? Okay. Well, first off, let's understand what the 3 times that the ball becomes live. It's only 3 times the ball becomes live. It's a jump ball at the beginning of the game or the beginning of every extra period. It's a throw-in, when we talked about this, just at the disposal of the thrower, and the free thrower when the ball's at the disposal. So the clock does not have to run during these times specifically, but it's the ball becomes live. And you might say, well, Jeff, why does any of that matter? But we got to know when the ball becomes dead. So I kind of talked about this. When the ball passes through the goal, it's considered a dead ball period. An apparent unsuccessful free throw, held ball, player team control foul occurs when the whistle is blown by an official. There's some exceptions to that. Time expires in a quarter. There's an exception to that. A foul takes place, a free throw violation by the thrower, and most violations make the play dead. I say most because there's some exceptions to that. So the main exception is if the ball is dead, it's not dead if the try or tap is in the air at the time that a foul or some other thing takes place. We allow the ball to continue, and then if it's good or not good, then that will end the play or end the situation. And again, official blows a whistle, for some reason, that will kill a play. Time expires. We kind of talked about that. So those are things that make the ball dead. Another exception, we talked about the official blown foul. But this is why this is important, because this can change the whole status of how you call a foul. So here's this from the national championship game. Let me show this play to you.
11th all time. Roll to the right. Get out of the way.
Well, they got a little accident here. Somebody's hurt, so it might be Tugler.
It is. Tugler is down.
And that particular play, shooter's in the corner, right?
Did the big. They lifted Condon, and so on the screen and roll, Roberts couldn't help, and then a little collision heading down.
Wow.
Remember, Tugler went down.
So the ball is dead at this moment right now because it's not at the disposal of Houston, who did not score the basket. So if there is a foul that is ruled after the ball goes through the hole, and it's considered intentional and flagrant in nature, because that's also the criteria. If we deem this to be incidental, this is nothing. But if we do call a foul, there's only one kind of foul we can call, and it has to be a technical foul. Now, it could be a technical flagrant, or it could just be just a regular dead ball technical foul, which means the player can stay in the game. But this is why this is important, because we cannot call a common foul or any other kind of foul during this sequence. So basically, it's a technical foul. That means that we're shooting free throws on this regardless. And then also there's some classification about shooting technicals, because anybody that's available on a team can shoot a technical, not just the player that's being fouled. Okay. Any questions about that? Now, I'm going to get into the last little part about this, and you can ask the question, but I'm going to get the last little part about fouls, and that's kind of why I'm bringing this up, and then we'll wrap. Go ahead.
Excel said, can you repeat the information about the throw-in from start to finish? Explaining that.
Okay, what specifically, I guess, maybe unmute and ask that question specifically.
Excel, can you unmute and kind of clarify your question, please?
Yeah, just clarify the question.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can.
Yes, on that throw-in, was that at the start of like the after the first half, the first quarter, second quarter with the throw-in? Because I know it was cross from table side.
Yes, it actually was the start of the second half.
Okay,
start. It doesn't, but just for clarification purpose, it wouldn't matter if it was even if we had an alternate, we just had a held ball and we take the ball out of play and we have a foul before we have completed the throw in, the arrow would stay the same way.
Okay, got you. Okay.
Because the logic is because the alternating possession throw in is no longer taking place, if that makes sense.
Okay, got you.
You have a foul throw in where you have to put it in where the foul's at and this, that, the other. So that's the reason, that's the logic behind the arrow doesn't change, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Okay, let me finish up with this last little part. And even though this is not really talked about status, but what kind of fouls are there? And this is very important. We have to know this because this is the thing that I messed up even in 10 or 15 years, a couple times in my career. I mean, this is my 30th year, but I've made this mistake. I've seen officials make this mistake multiple times. So every single foul, we have to put in one or two categories. We have to make it's either a personal foul or a technical. And this is kind of an overview of what that is. So personal fouls are common fouls, team control foul, player control foul, double fouls, or they can be, simultaneous fouls, they can be, intentional, flagrant, or multiple fouls. Technicals are in another category. They're the same kind of fouls for the most part, but there's non-player, non-contact fouls, usually meaning unsporting-like acts, direct technicals, indirect technicals, doubles, simultaneous, intentional, and flagrant. The reason this is important is because you need to know who you're giving them to. Because in technical fouls in our game, remember, players and or non-players, like coaches, can only get 2 technicals. So if you give a personal foul for something that should be a technical, you might be not adjudicating the rule right. Or you're giving a technical when it should have been a personal. You are not adjudicating the rule correctly, okay? So here's an example of team control. I'm gonna make this easy for time's sake. The blue team is in team control. So we have a foul on the blue team, but team control never ended. And they foul the white player. So what kind of foul is this? The team control foul. So that means, do we ever shoot on team control fouls? No, we don't. That rule's been around for about 10 years or so. So this is where they came together actually and discussed this. And actually, this is not in Illinois, by the way. This is in the great Northwest. But there was discussion because this official is trying to convince them that isn't this a team control foul? And he's telling them and this, that, the other, and they shoot free throws incorrectly. Because anytime we have a team control, now what would the way the team control would have ended? Is if there was possession by white, or there was a violation, or even a foul of some kind that took place, then team control would end, or the ball went out of bounds, or dead by rule. There's several kind of little situations. But during a passing action, team control still remains. So unless white had possession of this ball, team control never changed. So they should have never shot free throws in this case. And this is a rules mistake. And really, even though the non-calling official tried to help them out, they won't say, well, the individual messed up. They will say the crew. Now, maybe a saving grace is that when they talk to the officials or whatever, and the supervisor or whatever talks about it, like, she can say, I tried to convince him. And that's actually what was part of the conversation. That she was really trying to convince him that this is a team control foul. And he insisted, and then ended up shooting free throws. Now, a lot of time in this game left. But what if this was the last play of the game? So this is why this is important to know our rules. Okay? This is a situation. I don't know if Donnie still on the call?
Yes.
I am, yes.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to give it easy for you. Donnie was in this play. But this is another type of foul that has a classification, and we got to know our classification.
Inside again to Baycott, and he just pummels his way in. No offensive foul.
We have a player control foul.
Getting tangled up with Baycott.
And after the play is over, we have another action, which causes another foul.
3 officials quickly restore order. Emotions are high.
So the reason why we have to know the status is because after we've called a player control foul, we have a dead ball. So the ball's dead at this point. So any other action that results in a foul, as long as it's considered intentional or flagrant in nature by rule, it can only be a technical foul if you call the foul. You can't have an incidental contact if you deem this as incidental, but he's clearly doing this on purpose. This is done on purpose. He's not doing this and this is causing a action and a reaction or whatever in the crew properly, there's Donnie discussing the situation. Now, at their level, they can discuss this with replay. We don't get a chance to discuss this with replay, but they end up calling a technical foul, a player control foul, then a technical foul, and the player shoots. As a matter of fact, if you notice, the player that was fouled doesn't shoot because they don't have to. The coach can choose anybody that's on the bench or anybody that's in the game to shoot the free throw, at least in the high school level. Okay. Some other distinctions are false double fouls, false multiples, simultaneous team control, or team fouls, unsporting. Reason I put this in here is because you might hear somebody talk about a false double, and I've even heard officials say, well, I'll never call a false double foul. Well, what just happened was a false double foul, because basically what a false double foul is the first foul happens during the live ball, and before the ball becomes live again during the dead ball, there's another foul by the opponent. That by rule is considered a false double foul. It's just a classification. It doesn't mean you're going to say it's a false double foul. You're calling a foul that's individual based off of it. It just happens to fall into a category. False multiple, similar, live ball foul, then a dead ball foul by the same team. And then each penalty holds weight. Simultaneous just means both teams on the same team called simultaneous. I think I've only called that once in my career. Team fouls, any foul that goes to a team goes to their foul total. And then there's obviously unsporting fouls, which don't always fall in the category. And this might be one of the last videos that I'll show, but the reason I want to show this is because this is a key to status. Now this goes on a little long. I'm not going to play the whole video.
He tried to put a little acting on that one. The official didn't go for it, and then all of a sudden, there's going to be some pushing.
I don't know what that was. Okay, yeah, let's see it. Here it is. Here it is, partner.
Yeah.
Let's see what he did.
The official's talking about it right now. And he did. He punched him.
Oh!
He punched him.
So to make it simple, he hits him in the groin area on purpose. Okay. Now, I don't expect everybody to jump up at once, but can anybody tell me what kind of foul that would be?
I hate
what
to see
classification by rule?
I'll say flagrant 2.
Okay, do we have flagrant 2 in our game? No, we do not. Not in high school.
I would say flagrant and ejected.
Okay. So is it a personal or technical foul?
Technical.
Why is it a personal? Not trying to put you on the spot. Just want you to start thinking about it. Okay. It's a live ball foul. So it can never be a technical foul by rule for a personal foul act. It's a flagrant act, but it is not a technical by rule. And some people will say, well, is it unsporting? And that, well, the only way you could make this an unsporting foul is if this was considered a fight by rule, which I wouldn't necessarily. But why does all of that matter? Because who can shoot matters. So if we call a technical foul, we're giving anybody on this team can shoot those free throws. If we're calling this a personal foul, which we should properly, which is a flagrant foul, personal flagrant foul, then only the player that is shooting or his or her sub would be the ones that shot. Now, the reason I'm also mentioning this, because this player never got ejected from the game. This player stayed in the game. And you might say, well, how do you know this, Jeff? Because I went back and looked at the game, and he came back later in the third quarter. So we didn't even know the classification in which we called it. They just allowed that to happen to where they just called a personal foul, or I guess they called it tactical, actually, and which was improper by rule. Now, team in white blows them out, doesn't make a big deal, but this happened in Ohio this past year, and this made national news just off of a play that if we just slow ourselves down, we get this right. We get this right. Okay. And last little thing, and I'm doing this so we can kind of, for effort of time, players and coaches have different status. So team members are players, bench personnel, substitutes. Okay. Bench personnel involves coaches, but the head coach has a specific classification. The assistant coach has a specific classification. Why does that matter? Because head coaches get responsibility for the coaching box. They can stand during pretty much most of the game. Assistant coaches can, like bench personnel, can only stand up to react to spontaneous plays, and then they have to sit back down. But if bench personnel, the reason I say coaches, that applies to coaches, trainers, statisticians, could be the bus driver. But I'm just saying that they are considered bench personnel if they're sitting on the bench. And why does all of this matter? Because if we give technical fouls or we have players that enter the court during a fight, all of that can change how and who we give fouls to and whether players are ejected or not ejected. So these are little things that you need to know. And I'm just doing this so that you can start thinking about these things. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns? Clarence.
Yes. So we got a couple of questions in the chat. Let me see. Bryce says, I was watching the last video. Is the same as a player getting punched in the face as retaliation or aggression? Is that considered the same? Like a technical
What do you
foul?
mean? You mean if you're talking about the punch in the groin area?
Yes. Bryce, if you can unmute and kind of explain.
Yeah,
what you
kind of
put in the chat.
clarify that question for me.
Bryce, are you there? If you can unmute and just kind of clarify your question.
Yeah, the question was, because I saw that one where they were the ball was thrown at the player out of aggression or retaliation, as I would say, for the foul. If they punch, would that be the same kind of technical foul as if a player gets punched in the face?
You talking about the last video where the guy's punching the groin? I just want to make sure I understood the play we're talking about.
Where the player was on the ground and he threw the ball up and hit the it looked like a college play where he threw the ball up and hit him in the leg.
I think that was Donnie's play.
It was Donnie's play?
I think that's the one.
Well, if it's during a dead ball, we can rule contact incidental. And if it's incidental, which sometimes happen, there are players that run into each other, that does happen. But if we deem the act to be intentional or flagrant in nature, meaning it's not just a normal action, I'm purposely running into you, I'm running you over, I'm hitting you or this, that, the other, by rule, it can only be a technical foul. The only time a live ball action can be a technical foul is if you consider the action to be a fight, usually meaning throwing a punch or reaction to a taunt and you throw a punch. That would be the only way. But the play that I showed with that it was at Ohio, I wouldn't consider that to be a fight. I would just consider that to be a flagrant act. But the thing is, what you got to know about that is you got to, sometimes you might, I could see a case you making it for a fight. So, but you got to eject the player. You can't keep them in the game. It's like that. That was the main part of that we got to know that we can have a flagrant foul during a live ball. If you say that's a fight, great. But I think that's a slight distinction. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, the only reason I asked that is because I was at a game. I think it was would have been considered last season now, because now we're getting ready for the next season. And I watched a player punch one of them, and nothing happened. So I didn't know what the ruling on that should have been.
Right. If you deem that was a fight, then it's still a flagrant act. By the way, fighting is a flagrant act. It's just whether it's a technical or, and like the play that I showed was a flagrant or technical or personal, that would just be the distinction. But you got to make that decision. That's why you get paid the big bucks. So
Thank you, guys.
Any other
All right.
questions?
All right. So Linda asks, so for all technical fouls, the ball must be dead.
No. On sporting technicals can be live ball. On sporting acts, meaning like you taunting another player, you say something unsporting to the official, and then you get a technical foul. Those are non-contact unsporting acts. That's what they're called, non-contact unsporting acts. Those are considered technical fouls. That's different. But if there's contact, I can't say because that contact was actually rough, now it's a technical foul. I can't do that during a live ball. So if I hand the ball to the thrower and we're about to do a throw in and I push you down excessively and you fall to the ground, and it might have been violent in nature, I cannot call a technical foul and without that being deemed a fight. And then if we have a fight, we better consider some other things like what caused that, because we can get the instigator too by rule. That's another thing, but that's another conversation for another day. So.
Great question. Johnny asks, we got two more questions in the chat. Johnny asks, what's the next step if it's deemed incidental contact during dead ball?
So if we have the play like the Florida-Houston play, if we deem it's incidental, we can just, and if that happens, where that has happened, I've seen players just run into each other and they fall. We can stop everything because it's a dead ball and make sure that everybody's okay, get up, and then keep playing. But that's if we deem that action to be totally accidental. They didn't do it on purpose. They're not trying to send a message. But in this, if you would watch the national championship game, there was a lot of contention. That was done on purpose. And I think and again, they can look at it for review. We got to be our own review at the high school level. We got to get together and talk about it. Because I would say this, if me, Clarence, and Gary are working together, we might all have 3 different opinions about that. And we have to decide if that's what we're going to do. So I think they did a good job coming to that conclusion, but it could be a wash if you feel that it was completely accidental or they just ran into each other, you wasn't looking. That happens sometimes. That does happen. So you don't have to call a foul, but that's why the rule says intentional or flagrant in nature in order to be a technical foul during a dead ball. If they just bump into each other and fall, no. It won't be.
Great question. Sean asks, he asks, 2 flagrants equal an ejection. Does 2 flagrants equal an ejection?
Yes. Any flagrant act by an individual player would result in an ejection. Flagrant means ejection. And matter of fact, if you guys work other sports, flagrant is used all through the National Federation for ejection. It means ejection. We do not have a flagrant 1 and a flagrant 2. We have an intentional foul, which is the equivalent of a flagrant 1 and at the other levels. And flagrant is considered an ejection at our level where you hear flagrant 2. So sometimes you will hear that. And somebody even on the call said flagrant 2. It's just a flagrant act. You're done. Okay. Maybe they should change that classification. That's a whole nother conversation. But as of right now, intentional foul means we're treating that differently than a common foul. We're going to give the team the ball, shoot, nobody on the line, then give it back to them. Flagrant foul, we're going to do the same thing if it's not a technical, give the ball back to them. But the caveat, we're getting rid of the player that committed the act. And if both of them committed the act, we're getting rid of both of them.
Absolutely. Nick, I think you just answered the question. Nick asks, flagrant fouls equal ejection, 2 free throws, and the ball on the side of at half court. So yes, flagrant fouls. Typically we shooting 2 free throws and the ball at side out.
If it is considered a technical.
Correct.
If it's a flagrant act like what took place, that goes to the spot of where we throw in. And now for those who don't know or don't know, we have spots in the front court, which that did take place. So that would go on the 28-foot mark. If it happened inside the 3-point line, which is now a new rule, it would go at the 3-foot spot if it's not a technical. If it's a technical, it goes to the opposite division line after the free throw. But the distinction is if a flagrant act happens during a live ball, the player that was fouled gets to shoot, is the only one that can shoot the free throws, and or their sub if they are not able to continue. On a technical foul, anybody can shoot. They can bring the water boy off that's a team member and shoot the free throw. But that's a big distinction because they might bring in somebody that's a better free throw shooter, and now if you put the wrong person on the line, that's on us to know that.
All right. Johnny asks, and this is the last one, and then we'll call it a wrap for the evening. Johnny asks, can you clarify player control versus team control? He says, I'm still unclear on the correlation between throw-ins and possession arrow.
Okay. Player control, team control have the same result. We don't shoot free throws on any player control, and we don't shoot free throws on any team control. The only difference is player control is the player with the ball, or that's an airborne shooter that has released the ball. If they foul during that sequence, that's just considered a player control foul. Doesn't necessarily mean charge or block charge play. It can literally be I could push you off and you know, just get out of my way or hold your arm or something like that. That's what it's just a player foul with the ball. That's what it means, basically. Team control means any member of the team, not the player with the ball, fouls while you have team control by rule. So if you have team control by rule and you foul, we still don't shoot free throws. It's just a distinction. But the good thing about it, we have one signal that's supposed to be for that. And that's raising our hand, put our hand behind our head, and point in the direction in which we're going. That's actually the sequence we're supposed to go. I don't do that all the time, but that's what the sequence is.
And then can you explain the correlation between the throw-ins and the possession arrow?
The throw-in, if we have a possession arrow throw-in, an alternating possession throw-in, the throw-in has to end before the arrow can change, either with a violation or has to be legally touched. A foul by either team never changes the arrow because think of it this way. We had a throw-in that was because of the alternating possession, but we have a foul. So the next throw-in is a throw-in because of the foul, if that makes sense. Or the free throws are because of the foul. So we are not going to shoot. We're not going to change the arrow. And I'm going to be really honest, guys, that took me a long time to wrap my mind around. That was a hard one for me for a long time. It really was a few years ago that I was like, because it doesn't happen very often. It happens extremely rare, but I've seen on video the last 3 or 4 years, I've seen some examples of it. But that was literally the first time that happened in my career, probably in 20-something years. And I think when I did it 20-some years ago, I think we might have got it wrong.
Great. Well, great job, Jeff. Kudos to you for a great presentation on status. We're going to definitely share this out with everybody so you can go back and review the information. Before we leave, though, Gary, did you have anything you want to address with the officials?
Yeah, just shortly, Clarence. I thought Jeff, your presentation spot on. Loved every bit of it. Brought up some good stuff, and you were trying to put it in its simplest form for everyone on the call. If you all recall, at the end, towards the season last year, from start to finish, I was sending out some email things to all the officials in Illinois, which was a good thing. But the thing that we have to be careful with, and we're going to rely upon you to help us with this, is we're speaking to all different levels of experience. And we're not meaning to talk down to anyone. And if we're not trying to talk into over anyone's head either. So it's kind of a fine line that we're walking. And I thought, Jeff, you did a nice job. Clarence, kudos to you for running the show this evening. And I think, what do we have the next four Monday nights? We're back at it, right?
Yes, sir. We are.
We're definitely going the right direction and taking the baby steps along the way, and we're all going to benefit out of this in the big picture, I'm sure.
Absolutely. All right. So right before we leave, we want to give you guys a homework assignment. So for those that have your rule books, we ask that you read Rule 4. Rule 4 talks about definitions. Just like in any occupation, you have to learn the terminology, you have to learn the language or the lingo for that particular occupation. In basketball officiating, we have a language that we must know and that we must learn. And so for those that do have your rule books, you're going to study Rule 4, which is definitions. For those that do not have your rule books yet, give me some time. I'm going to try to put some definitions together, and then I'll shoot it out to you like on a PowerPoint presentation. But we want you guys to definitely learn the definitions, because that'll help you to understand, the different terminologies that you'll hear us using or the different speakers using, so it can kind of help you connect the dots, and it makes a little bit more sense to you. All right. So again, those that do have your rule book, study Rule 4. We'll cover. We'll have a little pop quiz and cover a few definitions next week. For those that don't, again, just give me a little time. I'll put a PowerPoint together with some definitions, and it'll give you guys something to study for next week's meeting. And we'll come back next week and we will reconvene at the same time. And then also, somebody did ask in the chat about the Zoom link. It will be the same Zoom link next week. Same time, 7 p.m. Central Time. If you know somebody who's interested in officiating, that wants to become an official or that currently is an official, we're kind of targeting this for year 1 through 5. But again, anybody's really more than welcome to participate. But again, we wanted to make sure that we get everybody on the same page. That's our goal. We want to teach the same information to get everybody on the same page so that we all can be successful at officiating basketball. All right. I will put the chat in the chat one more time. The link to the IAABO registration for those that are interested in registering. Again, feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. We'll stick around after this, after we officially end this meeting, for any additional questions you may have. We know some of you all do have some questions in regards to IHSA information, maybe some IAABO questions, or some questions in general. So feel free to stick and stay if you want for it. We'll be around for another maybe 10-15 minutes.
And I saw something in the chat. Just want to clarify, the new officials, you will not get your rule books probably till late September or early October. That is just the
Federation. The Federation rule books.
The Federation rules. I'm sorry. The National Federation rule book, you will get one directly from the IHSA because you are a first-year official. After every other year, I think then it kind of alternates unless you decide to pay for the rule books. And there's some other resources. We'll talk about that as well. But the IAABO book is actually outstanding. I'm always amazed when I look in it, the amount of material it covers, all of your mechanics and procedures. And guys, the RefQuest piece is probably one of the best parts of it, because there's literally hundreds of videos. If you sign up with IAABO now, you will get that entire library that they have. All you got to do is put in team control fouls, and it will show every play that has a team control foul related to it. Literally, in their library, which could be a couple hundred videos just for that situation alone. So again, we'll stick around for a little while to answer any questions, detailed questions, but everybody else, you're free to go, and we'll see you Monday at 7 o'clock.
Thank you, everybody, for participating. We'll see you guys next week.
Again, great job, fellas. Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Donnie.
Thanks, Donnie.
I'm glad you're able to see the video.
Could I ask a quick question?
Sure, go ahead.
Yes.
IAABO is not actually an association through the state.
No.
So should we still look at joining an association that's in our area?
Yes. I would say we are not trying to take the place of your local association. The difference between us and other associations, and Clarence is a member of other associations, I'm a member of other associations. We only meet like 4 or 5 times, or 7 or 8 times, depending on at the preseason, and then we don't meet again. We want to continue the information and teaching throughout the year. So yes, you can join that association. Feel free, join multiple, because I'm a member of multiple myself. I think I'm a member of 3 Illinois basketball associations. By the way, I live in Indiana, so I actually belong to 2 in Indiana too. So, and I attend most of the meetings. So feel free to join whatever you need to. But we also will love you here, so we can go through some stuff that maybe you don't go through during the year.
All right. Thank you.
Your association. Very welcome.
Yeah. Thank you guys for being on the call again. Appreciate it. Hopefully you guys learned some information tonight that you can add to your toolkit, and that gives you some extra tools to use when you're out there officiating. Any other questions or from anybody?
I have a quick question.
Okay, go ahead, Bryce.
I have my rule book still from when I was Kansas. I wasn't there very long. Would the definitions be the same in those rule books with being with the NFHS?
Was it an FHS book that you had when you were in Kansas, or was it a book strictly made from the Kansas Association?
They were NFH. They all say NFHS on them.
Same rule book. Yeah.
We're good then.
Yeah, National Federation is pretty much all 50 states.
Yeah. So you should
You have that rule book.
Yeah.
You have that rule book.
Yeah.
You will have access to the same rules, and unless your state adopted a rule, which does happen sometimes, it's not every case, but like for example, I think Wisconsin does 18-minute halves, I think. So sometimes there's very little change in rules from different states. They might have a state adopted rule. In Illinois, we pretty much adopt everything the National Federation does.
Gentlemen, I'm out.
Say
If you guys
What's
need
that?
anything, hey, Clarence, if you need anything, holler, okay?
Okay, I sure will. Thank you, Gary, for being on the call. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Gary.
Okay, guys, take
All right,
care.
have a good one. All right,
If
you too.
Tracy's there, happy birthday, Tracy.
Yeah, happy birthday, Tracy.
Happy birthday, Tracy.
Didn't he have a birthday a couple days ago?
Yes, sir. You sure did.
That's what I
Thanks,
thought. I
y'all. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, fellas.
I'm on it, Tracy, man.
Yes, sir. My man.
Later.
Okay.
See you guys.
See you later. See you later.
Later.
Gary. Donnie, you got anything you need to add?
No, just say if you guys need anything, let me know. You know where I'm at.
Okay, sounds great. Appreciate you being on the call too. Thanks.
Thank you,
All
Donnie.
right, Donnie. Thank you, man.
Hey, send me the schedule for when the calls are, because I may listen in.
Okay, I'll shoot it to you.
Still trying to learn.
We all are. They say it's always something to learn.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yes, sir.
You got that one boy right, so
yeah.
We tried. Yeah, let's go. All right, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All right, appreciate
Thank you,
it.
man.
All right.
Do have a question.
Go ahead, Johnny.
And I'm sorry I haven't gotten this yet. But I'm still trying to wrap my return just
I think you got two devices on, I believe.
Yeah. Is that better?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
yeah, we can hear you.
All right. So I'm trying to wrap my mind around the possession arrow thing. Because I know you team that wins the jump ball, the alternating team now has the arrow, and then so on and so forth until the end of the game. Correct or no?
Well, not till the end of the game. We start the alternating possession at the jump ball or beginning of the game, depending on how we start the game. Most games start with a jump ball, the team that has possession gets possession off the jump or any other kind of technical foul or something like that. The other team gets the ball. So if white gets the ball, for example, white and black, white gets the ball, black gets the arrow to start the game. And then if they don't have anything during the first quarter, no held balls during the first quarter, then black would get the ball to start the second quarter at opposite table. And then once the throwing ends by rule, if it ends by rule properly without a foul, without anything else happening, then white would get the arrow until the next alternating possession. The thing that happened that I was showing was anytime we have an alternating possession throw in and there is a foul that takes place by either team, the arrow would not change by rule because the next throw in is a result of a foul, not the result of the alternating possession ending.
Got you. So it wouldn't be like a loophole, basically.
Right. They don't automatically get it. So the throwing ends on any violation or potentially any violation, I'll say it that way. Because if the offense at the team that's doing the throw in commits a violation, they lose the arrow because that's the penalty of the violation because they did an alternating possession violation. But if there's a foul by black or white, A or B, wherever, it never changes because the next throw in is a foul throw in or like we would for any other foul or shooting free throws, so the arrow wouldn't change. And yes, it's hard to get your mind to wrap around because again, I I don't think I've had that very often in my career, very much so. So it doesn't happen very often, and that's why it was a former supervisor called me, and that was of one of the teams, and complained that I might have got that wrong, and I had to explain that to him, and he had worked longer than I had, so that's how rare that happens. So. I hope that explains it. I know that it's still, I got to explain it a certain way so I wrap my mind around it too, because that's how rare it is.
Great question, though.
Great question.
Anybody else got any questions or?
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Dan.
So when we were talking about at the very start of the video, we're talking about the player status or voluntarily leaving the court and coming back in. I've seen some videos, just watching some YouTube videos of them, other officials doing stuff like this where they're talking about those situations, and I've seen them point out where officials will not blow a whistle, but they'll signal, like they'll have a fist out to the side. Is that something that we do in Illinois as well? Is that a signal that we use to just declare that that player does not have status?
That's a very good question. There's a signal in the book that is called a delay violation signal. And what we used to use it just for free throw attempts. If the defensive team that was not shooting the free throw violates, we would wait for the action to be completed before we would stop play and call the violation. So basically, if the team that's not shooting the free throw calls a violation and the free throw team makes the shot, then the violation no longer sticks. So, but if they make it or if they miss it, and then the violation then comes into play. Last year, when we had this rule put into place, they added that signal, which is your arm out. Basically, you can't see it, or maybe you can see it. Yes, arm out. Like hold it until the time that the violation actually takes place. Then you stop play when the violation takes place. So in that particular case, if, like I said earlier, if they don't get the ball first, it's no violation. So if they pass it to 2 or 3 other people or pass it to one other person, then pass it to him after he did that, then we would drop our hand. But we would hold out our hand during that process to be like, I got a violation. If he gets the ball, I'm telling everybody on film, if he gets the ball, I'm calling a violation. If he doesn't, I'm dropping out. Similar to a free throw attempt.
Yep, I got it. Cool, thank you.
And that's a National Federation rule. That's a National Federation thing. So,
yeah, we know it can be a little confusing initially, but once you kind of get used to seeing it over and over again, you can it kind of makes a little bit more sense.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Great question, though, Dan. Thank you.
That's a wonderful question.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Any questions? Alyssa, Doug, Jack, Bryce, Johnny, Jim, Nestor.
Anybody? Bueller?
Bueller? All right. Well, that's it. We're going to call it a night, guys. Thank you so much again for being on the call. Like I said, definitely study. Great, Doug. We're glad you're taking it all in. That's the goal. Take it all in, and as you're taking it in, we're sure you're going to have some questions, and that's okay. That's part of the learning process, is to have questions. So feel free to, shoot us an email if it hits you later on, or what have you. So yes, definitely. Yeah, say same and learning from others' questions too. Exactly. Yes, that's what, and we're still learning, even though we have the years. We're still learning because the game is steady evolving, it's steady changing. So we have to do whatever we can to, increase our knowledge as well. So every little bit helps us all get better. Every little bit helps us all get better.
Because even though we got 25 and 30 years in, there's things we have not seen.
That's the truth. There's some stuff out here. I'm like, whoa, let me study this.
Amen.
Things we have not seen, and we're surprised by them. Trust me.
Yeah, and you got, and that's the thing about officiating, you got to be prepared for anything. Because
Right.
you know, if something happens, the players, the coaches, and the fans gonna look at us and say, "Okay, what you gonna do?" You know, and you gotta either make a call, or it's a no call, or you got to be able to explain what happened, or why you either did or didn't do something,
talk through it.
or talk through it.
Talk through it, because sometimes it's not. Well, that just happened, but did we have a live ball? Do we have a dead ball? Sometimes you don't know all the information. You gotta answer some questions of the crew.
We've all been there before. Trust me, and it's gonna happen to you at some point in your career too. So, but it's okay. It's all part of the learning process. So, all part of the learning process. Well, great job, everybody. Great job, Jeff, on the presentation. Again, feel free to reach out to us, everybody, if you got any questions about anything, or if something even hits you later on. Just shoot us an email or call or text or whatever. Again, we're here at your disposal to answer whatever questions we can to keep you all engaged and to help your learning process go as smooth as possible in this wonderful world of officiating basketball. So that's pretty much it. If nobody else has anything else, we're going to call it a night, guys. And we'll see you guys next week. All right. Good night, everybody.
Big Trace, I didn't see you.